Crime in Court USA is independently funded. It is made possible by listeners like you. If you would like to support the show, please head to patreon.com/CrimeInCourtUSA and make a monthly pledge that's right for you. Thank you for your support of unbiased and independent news content. Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to another episode of Crime in Court USA. Today is August 11th, 2021. I'm your host, Mundo Carrillo. I hope you guys are doing well. Me, just living another day in the good old land of enchantment. So let's get right into it, shall we? Have a couple of cop stories for you today. So let's go out to the West Coast first. On Monday, August 9th, the California Attorney General's office announced that it was filing manslaughter and assault charges against former Los Angeles Police Department officer Salvador Sanchez. Sanchez, who was 32, fatally shot 32-year-old Kenneth French and wounded French's parents during a confrontation inside a Costco in Corona, California in June 2019. Sanchez is charged with 1 count of voluntary manslaughter and 2 counts of assault with a firearm, had his bail set at $155,000. He was arrested on Monday and is scheduled to be in court on Wednesday, the day of this recording. French lived with his parents and had the mental capabilities of a teenager, relatives have said. The shooting left his parents in critical condition. After the shooting, Sanchez told police that he thought French had shot him and that he thought French was pointing a gun at him and his young son. That's what Sanchez fired at French, and a total of 10 rounds were fired at a store full of shoppers. French was apparently off his medication at the time, according to USA Today. A Riverside County grand jury declined to indict Sanchez a few months after the shooting, and this week Sanchez's lawyer David Winslow reiterated that Sanchez was attacked by French and pushed to the ground while Sanchez was holding his young son, who was 1.5 years old at the time, while waiting in line for free food samples. Winslow says Sanchez was briefly knocked unconscious during the attack as well. Winslow also reiterated that the grand jury found no criminal intent and called the new charges a publicity stunt by Attorney General Bonta. The state AG, Bonta again, took over the case after the Riverside County DA decided not to move further with the case when the grand jury decided not to indict Sanchez. Now, apparently this new Attorney General, Bonta, ran on the campaign promise of being more aggressive towards police misconduct. And by the way, Sanchez was fired in July 2020 for his actions during this incident. Very interesting that the grand jury didn't indict Sanchez in this case. A grand jury is composed up of regular citizens. I'm sure maybe some of you guys have been called to a grand jury before. It's a lot like jury duty. You got a thing in the mail saying you have to show up. Sometimes it's for several weeks in a row. You just got to show up, hear cases, and a prosecutor will present a case to you. Sometimes the cop will be there as well, just telling you what happened. A lot of times the defense is present, whether that's a defense attorney or the defendant. A lot of times they're not even there. From what I understand, they are a secret proceedings, so it's not like anyone could show up. And all the grand jury has to do is agree or not agree that there is enough there for the case to move forward. And usually the bar is pretty low. Maybe or maybe not a crime happened. That's for a regular jury to decide at a trial. So the bar, a lot lower than what a regular jury has to decide at a regular trial. So this grand jury in Riverside County, which is east of LA, they decided that there wasn't enough to take Sanchez to trial at first. So the DA in Riverside County was like, all right, well, I guess I'm not going to move forward with this. So the Attorney General stepped in after that, did its own investigation, and brought the charges forward. So they went around the grand jury proceeding. And now they have to do what's called a preliminary hearing, where basically they have to present the case to a judge and leave it up to the judge to decide if there's enough for a criminal trial to happen. In this case, it's probably going to be easier than convincing a grand jury, just convincing a judge that maybe a crime happened, instead of convincing a grand jury of usually around 12 people that something happened. So that might work out in the Attorney General's favor. I'm not sure. Maybe their case isn't strong. Again, we don't know what was presented to the grand jury. The public's not allowed to be there. Reporters aren't allowed to be there, so who knows? But preliminary hearings are typically public, so people will be allowed to go there. And we could see how strong the case really is against Sanchez, so we'll see how that goes there. Moving on to some news out of Chicago. 29-year-old Chicago police officer Ella French was killed during a traffic stop on Saturday, August 7th, and her partner remains in the hospital after also being shot. 2 brothers were charged in the incident. Emonte Morgan, 21, is charged with murder and weapons charges, while Eric Morgan, 22, is facing weapons charges. Police say Emonte Morgan killed French and shot her partner 3 times. The officers pulled over Eric, who was driving the car for driving with expired tags. An unidentified woman who was not facing charges was sitting in the passenger seat, and Emonte was sitting in the back seat. Emonte pulled out a gun out of his waistband and fired at the officers, and Emonte was shot during the incident, and he remains hospitalized as well. So Chicago mourning the loss of one of their police officers. That's about all the news I want to talk about today. Finally got back to some actual hard crime news. I know we haven't talked about crime in a while. We talked some politics with Cuomo and stuff, but yeah, we got back to some crime, guys. Thanks for listening. I appreciate y'all. Please share the podcast with your friends. Share with your enemies. Make amends. It's time. It's time. Come together, guys. Come together and enjoy this podcast. Check out the Facebook page, Crime in Court USA. Hit me up on Twitter at Mundo Carrillo. Check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/Crime in Court USA. I will see you guys next time. My name is Mundo, and I'm out. Peace.